very good evening to all our viewers on Globespan 24x7 in Guyana, the Caribbean, in the United States, of course, and around the world. We want to welcome you again to our Monday night program. And for all of you here in North America, and I think Guyana, we're doing it now. Happy Halloween. We had a lot of kids come to the front door and trick-or-treating with them. So it was really nice to have the kids around. So happy Halloween to all of our viewers. We hope you'll have a great day as we say goodbye to the month of October. We want to thank Nohar Singh for making this platform available, and of course to Devin Bissou, our technical specialist who carry us through the entire program. Thank you so much, guys. We want to thank our sponsors for those who have been with us all the years, and we want to ask you to continue to sponsor our program so we can keep this program going. Tonight, as we welcome the new month of November, next week, Saturday night here in North America, the clock will go forward again. I don't know why they're still doing that, but it is still going forward. So from next Monday, the program will start at 7 o'clock New York time, and it will be 8 o'clock Guyana time. So just to be sure, from next week, it will not be 7:30, but it will be 7 o'clock North US time, the Central Eastern time zone, and 8 o'clock Guyana time. You're listening to Pulse of the People, a great name that was formulated by Dr. Rose. And tonight we welcome no stranger to us, political leader. He started his political life, as we all know, in the PPP, in the PYO, and then he became leader of the AFC. Of course, we know in 2015, they joined with APNU, and together they form a coalition. And of course, in the 2020 election, we know what happened then, but now they're out of office. It is indeed a great pleasure to invite to the program tonight Mr. Khemraj Ramjattan. Mr. Ramjattan, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Charles, and glad to be here again. And just to say that on the 29th, we celebrated our 17th anniversary since the inauguration of the AFC. We're going to talk more about that, but thanks for having me on this evening.
Yes, I know that was part of our question to you, but I'm glad you mentioned it now. I know in the newspaper, AFC celebrated their 17th anniversary. With me, of course, is my co-host, Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose, welcome.
Thank you, Charles, and welcome, Mr. Ramjattan, to the Pulse of the People, the only program that is fair and balanced throughout the world.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ramjattan, you mentioned it, and I wanted to say it now, that AFC has been around and was launched in 2005, I believe.
That's
Am I correct?
Right. 29th of October.
I know, just this month. And I can remember I was in Guyana on that day, the launching at the hotel on the East Coast there. And I did give a talk on the diaspora when there was really no much support from the diaspora. I went down there. But eventually, the AFC got a huge support from the diaspora with some great guys who contribute significantly to the AFC. So you want us to tell us, walk us through from 2005 to today. What has the AFC achieved for Guyana?
Well, the AFC certainly has achieved prominence as a party, third to the PPP, PNC, APNU, and has made inroads into every single region and community. It is a political party that has done well in all the elections it has competed in since 2006. And you'd appreciate that we have had 5 parliamentarians in that very first elections we contested, and almost every single region we won a regional democratic councillor. The identical thing happened in all the other 3 elections, 2011, 2015, and also 2020. We rose the ranks from 5 parliamentarians to 7, to 12, to 9, and we rose also in the various elections that were held at the local level, having representatives in some of the NDCs. We have made our mark also as an organization doing the necessary things that political parties do at the local level too. We have gone to the sugar working areas, bauxite areas. We have represented gold miners, small and large. We have represented fishermen at especially 65, 66 Coca there, the fishermen's co-op there, and a number of other places. And there isn't any doubt about representation with public servants, teachers, nurses, policemen, so many of them. And we have done that which has now put us on the map. And I tell you this, permanently, we'd have every day you would get somebody criticizing that we were a dead party. Well, if you're a dead party, you know, Charles, why then criticize the dead? Just shut up and let us do our work. But these people know that we are an effective force. You'd have Clement Rohi writing recently. You'd have Donald Ramotar writing recently, stating that we are worth nothing. That is exactly what Bharat Jagdeo has said when he regarded us as wishy-washy and said something that we are underwhelmed, I think was the word. Not overwhelmed, but underwhelmed. But when, of course, the creation of a minority government of the PPP in 2011 as a result of our 7 seats, then is when he did commend me, and he even commended me thereafter in 2015 when in coalition we won the elections. And so it is important to understand the other kinds of work we did. At a parliamentary level, we did some private members' bills. We passed a lot of motions. We asked over 1,000 questions during that period, or more. And especially Sheila Holder, who was there, really doing that kind. And now David Patterson and the other members, Juretta and so on, doing it very well. And of course, giving great speeches on policy, especially budget time, and doing all that which a genuine parliamentarian, authentic representatives of the people must be doing. And we've been doing that. We have also, on occasions like the Key, that very first volume, I remember, because I found it only last night in my garage, you know, and here it is, you giving a speech at our conference, the very first conference that we had that launched the movement. And we had lots of people there, hundreds of people turned up. And then we went on further into government, as it were. At least 8 of us were ministers in a government, in the cabinet. And it has been a wonderful journey, if I may say. Third parties in multi-ethnic societies do not last long, but it all depends on the integrity and the accountabilities that we demand of ourselves and of the government of the day, and even our opposition partners and so on, is what will keep this movement going. And to that extent, then, yes, we also pay tribute every occasion, like our national conferences, our national executive meetings, to our leading members, to our supporters in all the regions, as I will do here now, thanking them for the support that they have given. Of course, some people have tumbled off the track. Some people probably can, with justification, say that we gave them a hard card and so on. And so there can be criticism. But look, that's the journey and that's the life. It's a normal course of events of a political party. It is democracy. That must be the underlying principle, though. If you want to be leader, if you want to be a presidential candidate, go there to your political party, try to win that there. And I have seen that done, knowing my experiences from the PVP, when an 18-man committee would select who and who are what and what, and that is totally undemocratic. We generally do that by allowing a participation of our membership and representative from the regions to do all these things. And I think that is what is attractive, that is what is appealing to Guyanese. And that is why, although they will have their ethnic sentiments, their institutional ethnic sentiments, a number of them have flaked off from these two political parties that has given us the prominence, as it were. As a matter of fact, the leading members of the AFC had literally, I got expelled from the PPP. Of course, Sheila Holder, some problems with the WPA and the associated group she came from, and the
Raphael
Trotman and the other members. A lot of them were from political parties, or they were, well, some were independents, but that is how we managed to get our party going.
Mr. Ramjattan, I don't know if I'm reading you right, but you seem to still be bitter with the PPP. You have not spoken anything evil of the APNOR of PNC. Why?
I am, because quite frankly, the evil I see right now in this country is, of course, the PPP. They have taken the oil monies that we managed to sign on to in 2016, that oil agreement, and we don't know where the money is going. We have seen how they have utilized people like Charandass and then get him over as High Commissioner, and look at his behavior. We have seen so many policemen now locking up what you call lawyers for telling the people to remain silent. And the government of the day seems all just not even want to apologize. Look, there are lots of things that are going wrong in this country. And the PPP was there and indicated that they're going to right all the wrongs. And they're not. And so to that extent then, as we have this chart, there are criticisms that I can make genuinely of our partner, of other political parties, and even the AFC. But I'm speaking as an opposition member here. And of course, my criticisms will be directed to the PPP, and understand it in that context.
Well, you're giving the impression, Mr. Ramjattan, that it was all good and glorious in the coalition, when we know that's not the case.
I don't know where you got that from, Charles, but that is not the impression I think I'm giving here. We had our challenges, we made our mistakes, and every political party, being made of men and not angels, will make mistakes. And it is dependent now, for the leaders of those parties and the party's genuine membership to ensure that those remedial measures will be made, and so that you can go on, because we are all humans. We will err.
You know, Mr. Ramjattan, I know Dr. Rose will come in a minute, but when the AFC was formed in 2005, it brought what do you call, a breath of fresh air to the Guyanese people, hoping that eventually the AFC would take over the reign of government. Now, as I speak with people today, they said if AFC had stayed independent, they might have been in government today. You might have been the president of Guyana today. Has it been a mistake? Was it a mistake for the AFC to have joined with the coalition rather than remain independent?
Political judgments have to be made at the time that they're made, in the context of the circumstances that they're made. I do not believe, to begin with, that the AFC could, because of institutionalized ethnic politics, would come out and be a bigger party than the PPP or the PNC. Personally, you would go out there and ask people for their votes, but I remember of an incident, and I told you about it. I had 84 members in that very first elections at number 47 Village. And when the votes came out, free and fair elections, in 2006, 34 votes I got, the AFC got. And then when you ask them will watch you sideways and I walk along. But he wants me the inside of that ballot station, and me see the cup, the X gonna go there. 50 of them out of the 84 tell me that. So you have to understand that although a lot of people might want to see a third party doing well and will hope for the best, it is not going to break the back of the institutionalized party, especially in this multiracial kind of a context. They're going to still go, they're going to like you. Everybody in this country like me. PPP people, PNC people, all kind of people like me. Amerindians, everybody. But when they go and vote, and that is why people like Dr. Rose will know from even the very first instance, when we had certain Dick Morris and so on, who are saying that we're going to get 27, 28% of the votes. Well, you go along with him. He was your person that came. The trouble is that on that very first elections, it proved to you that you are going to be there flaking off from these two. And so when we decided, it was because we had done about 3 polls. And the polls were saying that in 2015, had we gone in a 3-way horse race, the PPP will still get about 49, 48% of the votes. And how do you ensure, now that you wanted after 23 years a political party to lose an elections? The combination was indicating that yes, it could win a 50.2, 50.3, and we ended up with almost 50.4 or 5. And so indeed you go with the polls and you go with the sentiments of the people. And so we had the PPP out. It was a major achievement because knowing the strengths of the PPP, knowing its capacities, its personnel, its organizational groundwork. I was there. I helped since 1992 to ensure that it was there since right up to 2015, in a sense. So it is important to understand that when that judgment call was made, our objective was to get the PPP out. And we made that objective a reality. Of course, mistakes were made. There are things that were propagandized against us very badly, like the right sizing of sugar, and even the greatest economic decision, in my opinion, which was that oil deal. It is what is going to make this country a very great country, notwithstanding what the Chatterati and everybody else is saying. And of course, that sugar decision, right sizing. And but a lot of criticisms can be made. It is politics. And it is politics to criticize even the good things a political party has done. And so to say that I would have been president, look, I know my place in the history and the politics of Ghana. If you go in with a third party, you can't win presidency. You got to be one of the big parties to win a government. The PPP is extremely powerful. And now it will use that money to buy votes, as we see all across the place with certain sectors. Rice farmers, whether it's money or fertilizer, fisher folk, double severance for the sugar workers, and a whole host of other set of people within Amerindian communities now, they're shifting in. So don't get beyond ourselves. We have to appreciate what the realities are for a third party. But flaking the votes from both sides is important to ensure scrutiny of the PPP.
But I know I want to bring Dr. Rose now, but just before Dr. Rose come on, but AFC have squandered that opportunity because they merged with the coalition. But then we'll talk about that in the
that's your opinion. That's your opinion. That's not my opinion.
Rose?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Ramjattan, I want to bring you to something that happened today at the Georgetown Public Hospital. The death of this woman, Nativia Khemraj, and her little inborn baby. In this day and age, people are still dying from childbirth. It was reported that they gave her oxytocin to induce the pain or whatever it is. Labor. Now, the question is, this is surprising. Both mother and child are dead. And we are in the 21st century, and this is still happening. What have you to say about that?
Well, look, I must say it is a major embarrassment. I do not know the circumstances. I would want an investigation to be carried through to find out what is happening there. But playing the politics of it at this early stage might be a little unwelcome on the part of the government. As you told me just now, the government don't like when I criticize them. But with all that oil money, over $1.2 billion this year, they done collect about $600 million as of today, plus $607 million last year. That money ought to go for better maternity equipment, better maternity expertise, and conditions at that hospital that could avoid these kinds of things. And we are not seeing that happening. And to that extent, then I am embarrassed as to what transpired there and would have caused the death of mom and child. So that is as much as I could say. There might be, I have known of situations where mother has also been with some illness before the inducing of labor. Doctors didn't get to know, and it has happened in other countries too. We are doing, I understand, not so well in that maternity section. A lot of people have been dying with childbirth and so on, and we have to do far better. Our doctors, I know, have been trying, but our doctors require more funding for the various equipment that could diagnose quicker the seriousness and gravity of the situation, and that can help.
Local government elections will be held on March 13th, as announced by the government. Will the AFC continue to be part of the coalition in contesting the election, or will it go it alone, or is the AFC contesting the election at all?
All three questions I am not prepared at this stage to answer, because we will be having our national executive to decide on this question. I have already come out with a statement and a press release in it that it is not the decision of Khemraj or David Patterson. We will have to go back to our national executive. We have expanded our national executive to include all the regional chairman or chairperson from the various regions, Region 10, region, and the leading members of our Women for Change and Youth for Change. So that expanded body will make the decision shortly. I think we are proposing sometime this week or next week for that to happen.
Okay. Now let me go to an issue that happened last week. Attorney at Law Tamika Clark was arrested by Superintendent Karish Nadat Ramana, because he was given instructions by Fazil Karibash, the Suku director, or Suku CEO, whatever it is, saying that this is part in the Constitution and you have to arrest this one because she's obstructing justice by not telling her client to give a statement. Now, Nigel Hughes took up the case and got her released and so forth. But why lawyers like you and many others were not there protesting en masse the arrest of a lawyer? Lawyer-client relationship is special. So why were you all not there to protest this?
Once I had known, I would have been there, I tell you honestly. Or if I'm not at court and I can't go for the protest and so on. Nigel Hughes could tell you of my attributes in relation to coming to the assistance of every lawyer that would happen. I understand he got the call and he went down there, and I understand by that time too the Attorney General had heard about the matter and sought the release of the woman. I don't know how the Attorney General is getting involved in all these things, but as a matter of fact, it was, you know, a good thing that he also intervened. I believe that it is a degradation of the professionalism in our police force now. Ramana must know, because quite frankly, he went to some of the courses under the AFC APNU coalition that we had from the Americans. We had a number of courses there teaching them the judges' rules and a whole host of other things. But if he got the instruction from Karim Baksh to lock up the lawyer, well, Karim Baksh too, if that is true. I don't know how true that is, but if that is true, Karim Baksh must also be chastised for doing that kind of instruction. Although I doubt whether that could have come from Karim Baksh. Ramana must have taken it upon himself because he's an aggressive policeman. It's good to have aggressive policemen, but they must stick to the legitimate framework of what you do when policing. You should never even contemplate ever locking up a lawyer who is there for purposes of telling the client, you have a right to remain silent, and you shut your mouth. I do it all the time now that I'm back in practice. And at the criminal bar, that is one of the first things we tell our client, especially when the police don't want to give you time to be with the client for any extensive period. So you tell the client, please shut up at this point in time. And I go to the policeman investigating and remind him, I have asked my client to shut up. And then you leave the police station. But what happened here is just an atrocity, and it is unbecoming of good police work. More than just unbecoming, it is very ugly. And I'm glad that the Bar Association came out with its statement. I'm a member of the bar now, and of course, you know, the statement is incorporating how we also must not do it at the police station. That is, the policemen must not do it. It breaches all law. It breaches the judge's rules on the issue. And it breaches the normal courtesies that should be extended to a private lawyer at the criminal bar. It was wholly horrendous and horrible and a situation and an event. And we should not allow that. We have to make sure that the policemen here, or the policemen who allowed this to happen, must be penalized. We don't need policemen in the force like that. My term in government, that policeman would certainly be going home. He's a rogue element. And out of my term there, about 8 to 9 policemen who we caught doing nonsense, taking bribes and all kinds of things, go home. I don't know if this one going to go home.
Paul Slow said that these 2 senior officers acted above the law. Do you think both should resign?
Well, I certainly feel that the one that actually did it, I don't know where Paul got his evidence from, but the one actually, Romana, should more than resign. He should be dismissed, and he should be charged too. Whatever the charge that they could find in the standing orders of the police.
And do you think Suku should offer an apology to Tamika Clark?
Of course, Soku should have offered an apology. Soku, as a unit within the police force, should have done that, and also the police commissioner. I was told that they did some kind of apology, the office of the commissioner. Well, I hope that I'm right about that. But they should. And I think they should offer some compensation, because they had the girl 30 minutes under what we call false imprisonment. Wrongful arrest and false imprisonment. She should take them to court.
Well, I think she's suing them. Now, Mr. Ramjattan, I've read several times in the newspapers where judges are accepting pleas for blatant murders, premeditated murders, manslaughter. And these people who are pleading for getting plea of manslaughter sentenced to 10 years and 12 years in prison, whereas a rapist is being sentenced to 15, 18, and 20 years to prison. Justice Simona Ramlal was one of those judges who offered a plea in the Blackbush Polder case, which was a premeditated murder, and give this guy 12 years in prison. Why judges are doing that?
Well, I feel that they understand the nature of the case by the case being before them. They have heard both the prosecutor and the defense counsel. They probably can also hear from the relatives and so on. And to that extent, it is a wide discretion that our judges have. I want to believe too that some of the judges are a little more lenient, because it's not all judges have the same equal kind of experiences before. Some can be very harsh because of their experiences, or their reading or their philosophy behind the law. Some can be far more lenient, and that is one of the considerations I think that might have created this kind of what critics are saying is a disparity in the sentencing. But there is also the need in Guyana for a kind of a sentencing policy guideline. There might be some guidelines coming out from the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice, and the Chancellor. But whether this can, you know, we should have what is called an appeal against the sentence if it comes to that. And I think we have gotten that. So if the prosecution is of the view that 12 years was not sufficient, and the relatives are, you know, grieving and concerned and about that, and even members of the public, the DPP ought to then appeal that sentence. I remember Rabbi Washington long years ago had appealed his sentence of 15 years and he ended up getting 20 years. I think we do have that right to appeal these, unless I'm mistaken, but there should be if we don't have it, legislative arrangements to allow for the appeal so that judges could be scrutinized by a higher court as to what the sentence granted was, whether it was reasonable in the circumstances or whether it was so unreasonable that the Court of Appeal is going to put on some more years. But plea bargaining is something that we have in our laws. And the criticism I noticed too, that they should not have been allowed to plead guilty to the lesser offense and so that they could get their 12 years, is also something that the prosecution has to take into consideration. In Guyana, so many people give statements at the time of the incident. But by the time the trial comes on, they don't want to testify. And sometimes I have been a prosecutor for 4 years in the early 80s, 84 to 88, well, mid-80s. And that was beginning to happen around that time when people didn't want to come and testify. So there were cases that I had to also indicate, well, you know, we're going to give the lesser offense. What do you think? Because you're uncertain whether the witnesses will want to come to court, or he might come to court and say, I can't remember. I not remember, see them, and you lose the entire case.
Okay.
So there are very many considerations that you take to go to a plea bargaining, and we don't know what the prosecutor had as witnesses here, whether some of the members of the family of the accused got to them. And this is a small society, I'll tell you, as a former prosecutor. Relatives within small communities all know each other. The community know everybody. And then when they say, all right, a man dead, what are you going to do here? You want to go hang my son too? The relatives of the accused would go. And then there's a lot of emotions, and some of the witnesses say, well, me not go court. Next thing you hear, they're going to Suriname when the trial come on. You can't find them. The judge is on your back. Please get your witnesses. If you can't get your witness, tomorrow case closed. And then a no case submission is made. So all of these have to be understood before we make criticism, because I act in the presumption that our judges do understand the law of sentencing and they do as best as possible in the circumstances.
Okay. One of our viewers sent me this question before my colleague comes in. He asked me to ask you about this woman, Miss Kamala Bharat, who said she was allegedly slapped by a PP operative in West Coast Borbies, and the person left the country. You think she's going to get justice?
I don't think she will get any justice now. The police force, as I said, has become very unprofessional. Let me tell you something. If it was a Khemraj Ramjattan or a David Patterson or somebody that was an opposition to the government of the day, the police would have made sure that they do not leave the country's jurisdiction. They would have blocked everybody. They would have certainly blocked, just like how they block up Winston Jordan and so on from traveling. You know, you got to go for court action or ask the commissioner. And here's a man slapped somebody. Witnesses saw, the girl is complaining, and then you allow him to just get out of the place, because Ozzie Rogers, as we all know, is a close friend and propagandist in New York for the PPP government, for Irfan Ali. And, you know, this is the nastiness that is happening in our country, whenever, and quite frankly, a number of the PPP people have abused women, right up to Varshni and Jagdeo. You remember when Varshni came out with statements about Jagdeo? Well, if the head of the fish is rotting like that, you're going to get everybody else going on rot. And then so I do not be sure safely.
We're getting a feedback there, Mr. Ramjattan.
Something is wrong.
Devin, let's go to a short commercial break, and when we come back here and fix Mr. Ramjattan.
Immediately.
Celebrating an anniversary, renewing your vows, birthdays, bachelor or bachelorette parties, groups or conferences, then let Travelspan organize an all-inclusive vacation trip that suits your occasion. With 28 years of experience in the business, Travelspan will tailor a package or cruise that suits all your needs for all occasions. Speak to our vacation experts and let them guide you. Call Russell or Allison to book your groups and special occasions, packages, or conferences. Call 212-243-0865. That's 212-243-0865.
Are you missing homemade food, snacks, drinks, roti and curries, or have a busy schedule? Then get your favorite curries and roti delivered directly to your home with all from one supplier. Come order your duck, goat, or chicken, fully cooked and ready to eat with dal puri or bus up shut. We also now have chicken tikka masala or lamb vindaloo available with regular naan or garlic naan. Don't forget to add your solo, icy, coconut water, or Nestle drinks to these delicious meals. Select your choice, and load your box and let allfromonesupplier.com deliver directly to your home. All from One Supplier has you covered for all your food. Plus if you need pepper sauce, curry powders, fish, meat, ghee, and so much more. We also have tasty pastries like pine tarts, cheese rolls, currants rolls, coconut rolls and so much more. Sales are ongoing every week, and your first order is 10% off once you apply the coupon code, Globespan 24x7. Log on to allfromonesupplier.com today and purchase. Allfromonesupplier.com is your one-stop shop for all West Indian items, and remember it's free shipping to all US states.
Welcome back, viewers. We are sorry about that interruption with Mr. Ramjattan. Speaker was having a problem. We're back on now. Mr. Ramjattan, when Dr. Rosa asked you the question about the gentleman who left Guyana and the police didn't arrest him, on your watch, we had also the police harassing the commissioner of GCOM at the secretariat, at the Arthur Chung secretariat. How can you compare that and say that the police was not compromised then by the coalition?
Well, you can take it from me. I never gave any instructions like that, and I'm absolutely certain that there was none from President Granger.
So
as
it
to
means
whether the
then,
police
it
were...
means, Mr. Ramjattan, that you are the Minister of Public Security, but there were others giving instructions to police that you didn't know about.
Well, I don't know what is the truth here, because when Leslie James was asked, he said he's going to look up, and the policy arrangement is that GCOM has a special status, all the commissioners, because they're the judges of the elections process, and they must be given everything that is required for their safety. And that is what Leslie James indicated to me, and a number of the other officers, very senior ranking deputy commissioners and so on.
But you know, the record showed, Mr. Ramjattan, that it was under your watch that they harassed the commissioner. And
well, that was unfortunate if it did happen, and she took it in that regard, that it was harassment. I am certain that it was remedied immediately thereafter.
Okay, I want to get back to the AFC, if you don't mind, Mr. Ramjattan. When the AFC went into office with the coalition, you had some really good diaspora professionals. I'm looking at Colin Haynes. I'm looking at, Sais Narayan Singh. I'm looking at Taran Khemraj. I'm looking at Dr. Somar. I'm looking at the guys from Brooklyn. So we have some really good professional persons here in New York. How many of those were given an opportunity to serve in the government that you were part of?
A number of them. Of course, the more famous one from the AFC was Professor Shamir. There were some that we give recognition to, but they said that they can't come. Of course, Dr. Somar would not have come, but he gave a lot of advice, especially after the COVID and so on, to our Minister of Health. There were some people who, you know, when we had started the movement with the combination of APNU, who at that point in time said we should have never gone there. And they, in a sense, you know, kind of withdrew. I remember that happening to Sace. She didn't want us to join up. And although I tried to persuade him, I think there might be a number of others. And as a result, of course, they said that they didn't want to have any part to do with it. We got some other very senior people that we knew about. Vince Adams was another executive member that came the environmental agency head. So Professor Shamir and Vince Adams. There might have been a couple of others that were placed in other positions. But they had to be also, as we have done it, be qualified for the position that was vacant. I remember there was a big one that I lobbied for him. He was our head in the Canada group, and he was very, very qualified.
Tameshwar?
Tamish, yes.
Lil Mohan?
Good friend Tamish, Lil Mohan. And he had a competitor with Godfrey Stacia, and Godfrey Stacia won out. And of course, Tamish got very annoyed for losing out and why I didn't lobby for him. But I lobbied because you had to, at the cabinet level, make a decision. The president wanted our inputs, and I indicated. Not that I felt that anybody was superior to anybody, but I indicated. And things happen sometimes that create the fallouts in politics, just like in that case. And so, you know, it is not genuine when the criticism is that we didn't like that person or we leave out that person. They got some people who felt that there should be ministers. Charandass was one. And he wrote to the president. And of course, the president said, no, I don't think you're ready at this stage, because the president, in his judgment, will have to make the call. And he said, no. Charandass was very annoyed. And that is how it happens in this political life.
Okay.
That is my
as I mentioned, we are like Colin Haynes. He has an MBA in public health, and he was there and he couldn't get a job with the government when he was so involved with maternal care and so on that you guys were supposed to put in place, never did. So why was people like him, who was in Guyana many, many times, to work with the government, never given an opportunity to?
Well, there is only so much space in government and these top jobs. It is not as if they're plentiful. And whosoever would have gotten that job already, or whatever vacancy was there, remember we had a very strict finance minister. He had indicated that we got to watch how we are spending this money. He wanted more or less a balanced kind of budget. And he was saying that since we have done the oil deal and it will come in 4 years' time, we can have some more monies for lots more other things. But not now, because he doesn't want this overhead and debt burden and all of that, whether local debt or international debt, to affect his policies. So there are so many constraints once you get into government. Money constraints.
Mr. Ramjattan, can I cut you? I know we have short time, but can I we have a lot of things to do, and I want to mention this to you. In the 5 years of the coalition, they collected in taxes 1.3 trillion Guyana dollars. They sold every ounce of gold we had in the reserve. So money was there. So the finance minister saying that money was not there, that's a blatant lie. That's not true.
No, please don't call my finance minister a liar.
No,
Please.
I'm not calling him a liar. I'm saying if he said that, that is not true. Sorry I withdraw that statement.
No, we had more
That is
money,
not
but we
true.
did a lot of public spending with that additional monies that we got. A lot of
And
the
what is there
corporate
to show for
entities-
it? What is there to show for it, Mr. Ramjattan?
Oh gosh. We did a lot of roads around the place. David Patterson can give you all the roads that we did. We did a whole host of other things. We continued the airport restructuring. We did so many things at the police station level. We had 12 big police stations, some rehabilitated with the IDB loan, others with the government of Guyana loan. We had to buy equipment from the fire service, as far as I know, a boat out there that will run the wharves if the wharves are on fire for almost £1 million or £2 million. There's lots of money that was spent, and then we increased the wages of the public servants, and that alone is more than $1 billion.
I'm talking about 1.3 trillion, Mr. Ramjattan. Anyway, for the local guys, I know Charandass was one of them, and you know Charandass was really a creature of, as you say, of the AFC. We have a tape with him. I'm sure all of us saw this tape, and I think Devin has a tape.
Dog in my yard, all right? You want the dog, take it, put it between your legs.
Little bastard?
No, you probably want the dog. That's what you want. I don't care. I don't care who you are.
I don't care who.
Anyway, so that was a really despicable. The president did the right thing and recall him back. What is your view of Charandass?
Well, you know, my view of Charandass changed dramatically when we were lied to, and I've called him a liar. I've even called him more than that, and he carried me to court. The matter is still in court, so it's sub judice. I don't want to go for it. But when he, at that meeting, just before the no confidence motion, the chief whip and the prime minister sat us 33 members of government in that committee room and asked us had a short talk on the issue that this could bring our government down. And even if we had a conscience vote will not be allowed now because it will bring our government down. And then went through each person, saying to them, would you vote yes or no? Everybody, no, 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 no. Charandass's was the loudest no. And then when it came to the point of ending the debate, Charandass came up to me and said to me that Khemraj, I think it was the dinner time, we were having dinner, closing off the debate would have occurred just after. He said, Prax, I want to talk because this fella Jack there is no good and this and that and what. How could he criticize the sugar industry being right-sized and all kind of thing? Honest to God, you know. And I said, no, Charandass, we got plenty speakers already, and this is after dinner time. This thing may go up till 10 o'clock or whatever time. And he said, all right. And he gone. And, you know, and then when come now, he got this thing. And he said, yes, yes, yes.
But there were reports that about 2 or 3 of the AFC guys would have voted yes. Is that any truth to that?
Not as far as I'm aware, because they did not.
I know they did not vote for yes, but I understand that there was like 2 or 3
well,
of them.
That is speculation, and that would be the same propaganda. Because I even speculated when other people were telling me that, you know, Charandass is one of them. I said, boss, I've spoken to Charandass. We want me as leader of the party to do. I mean, a lot of people criticized me, and they had some very racial remarks from some of my Afro-Guyanese brothers. Ayukuli can't be trusted. Look what you're going to do. Bring down the government. And it is true. What could I say? Because here is a man in front of all of us, Prime Minister, in front of his party leader, saying, no, he will not do it. He understands that his government is going to come down. And then is when we start put 2 and 2, obviously he was speaking to Jagdeo. That is why Jagdeo brought the motion in the first place. And
okay. But you just mentioned, Mr. Ramjattan, that people were telling you that Charandass is one of them. There are others who was telling you. Who are the others' name was called?
Well, I will be doing an injustice because Charandass vindicated that he was one of them. But the others have not. And I wouldn't go that far because that could be that could be disparaging.
You don't want to call their names. All
no,
right,
I wouldn't
okay.
call their names. Of course,
no
I wouldn't
problem.
call their names.
Okay, but recently on Saturday, October 29th, in the Kaichur News, you said corrupt practice of PP responsible for a hidden mining contract. Wasn't the coalition the same when they hid the contract for the oil and we only know about it long after it was signed? Why wasn't the contract presented to people first before it was signed?
Because it is an executive action that we in the government will sign on to. We had indicated that oil was found and an agreement was already modeled after 2012 agreement that Bara Jagdeo had modeled. Because when they started their exploration, they wanted to know how much royalty they got to pay and how much percent profit share we would want. And so we were kind of cribbed and confined by the 2012 agreement. And let me tell you something, a lot of people don't understand this, but the next week after we signed that oil agreement, we put it out in the deeds registry.
No, Mr. Ramjattan, Mr. Ramjattan, sorry to cut you off. I'm so sorry about that. Why wasn't the contract before it was signed presented to the Guyanese people to have their views on it? Why does the government...
You do not
hold on.
No,
why didn't the government sign up a contract that was supposed to be the biggest revenue earner for Guyana ever?
Yeah.
And a small clique of people did it, and the entire country, even the opposition in government at that time, was kept in the dark. Why?
The opposition in relation to signing of contracts of this sort, like the naming of a high commissioner to India, always does it and then brings it to the public. You don't go to the public and say, well, we are going to make Charandass the High Commissioner.
Mr. Ramjattan, please don't make us go down that road. We are looking at two different things. We are looking at the greatest wealth that our country will ever have. We are giving it away. A contract is signed and no one in the country knew about it except a small clique of people. Why is that happening? But you accuse the PP of the same thing. They're signing mining contract and doing exactly what you did in the government.
Well, we brought it out. Understand that you have to go and carry it to it's like putting it in the Gazette. When we spoke to the minister of, at the time, Raphael Trotman, he indicated that he sent it to the deeds registry to be published. It's a document, a deed as it were, a contract. And in any event, if the PPP was there, what would have been their approach to the thing? They would have said that we already, in a sense, by the model agreement, only 1% we could get plus 50% profit share, with all the other ring fencing provisions and all of that.
Again, you're speculating. You're only making an assumption. We don't know that. I am not speculating.
I am saying, all right, well, haven't they vindicated my speculation when they said they're going to renegotiate and they're not doing anything?
And that's a valid point. But listen to this, Mr. Ramjattan. Mr. Trotman, who signed this contract, said that he received an A+ in negotiation in his master's degree.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you did negotiation in your studies. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. In a contract of this sort, at the time when we signed this contract, we knew that there was 1 billion barrels of oil equivalent. We know the possibility exists that there is much more. Why didn't we sign a contract to give the government, whoever the government will be, the opportunity in that contract to say to the oil companies, if you exceed 5 billion barrels, this contract will have to be negotiated? Why wasn't that placed in the contract? That would have given the PPP enough ammunition to go back for renegotiation. Now you're telling the PP, oh, they must go back to renegotiation when you sign the contract.
No. Let me make my point clear. The PPP fooled the Guyanese public by saying, put us in government and we will renegotiate the contract. Okay? And that is what my criticism largely. Because as I am telling you, this contract is a very good contract. A lot of people and if you start putting it out there to the members of the public, every decision on a mining contract or an oil contract and all of that, you're going to get so many various views that you will not be at the end of it at all. And this is kind of, and generally when you're dealing with these big companies, they want you to negotiate in confidence. And then, of course, if you're the government, you want to carry it to the public, you do it.
That's
So
Mr.
that is what we
Ramjattan.
did.
Sorry again. That is if we have professional negotiators. The persons who negotiate this oil deal, in my book, they are packing nincompoop. I might be wrong. But what I'm saying to you, Mr. Ramjattan, and I'm sorry I'm going to say this now, but all our politicians in Guyana, the AFC, the PNC, the PP, we should bind them together, put them in a boat, and let them go out in the Atlantic and never come back. You guys have really squandered our country resources, both in the oil. Now you said we're having it in the mining industry as well. It is really sad what the politicians are doing to Guyana.
We set up a Natural Resource Act that says 21, and the 14 of them will be from civil society. The PPP gonna knock off that and put 7 alone to be in that committee. That our governance was far superior to what the PPP is doing. And we manage $18 million as a signature bonus, which is in the bank overseas. A lot of people said we thief from Ramjattan, thief from and get 5 million at Capital One for this and that, kind of thing. What nonsense is that? We got a 1% royalty more than the model agreement, plus a number of things, $18 million. And that was for purposes of paying the lawyers that is going to do the ICJ case for us. Let me tell you something. When the CGX ship that was exploring for oil out there had its problem with Suriname, we decided to go to a maritime tribunal. The lawyers said that they want $10 million to fight our case because we knew that that is our waterways, economic zone, and Suriname was claiming it. CGX paid Jagdeo government $10 million to do that maritime tribunal. And a lot of people said that the $18 million we get buyout. We negotiated hard to let the people give us that up front too, plus the 1%.
If, Mr. Ramjattan, again, my due respect to you, sir, but if that is strong negotiations, I don't want to be part of that team because it's a very lousy deal. Look, the third quarter of this year,
all right.
Exxon declared $19 billion in profits. They're buying back shares. They're giving the people in America who already have money more dividend. And the poor people of Guyana, we have $1 billion in our account. When for the quarter, Exxon is declaring $19 billion. And if Exxon has $19 billion, then Sunoco and Hess have another, God knows how much money they have. That is what we are giving them, and we are still poor in our great country that is so rich, all because of our politicians. Sad to say that, but that is very true. Dr. Rose?
All right, well, we can't do without them, you know. You want them to come to your interviews and so on like this.
It's not good.
No, this is democracy. If you don't like them now, I hope that you're going to at least lobby so that the PPP is removed from there because they didn't keep their promise.
And putting back the PNC, which is no good as well. So
no, put who? Charles Sugrim and Euclid Rose?
Maybe a new team might be better for Guyana.
Well, I am not so certain. I am not so certain about that.
All right, sir. Okay.
Calling us nincompoops, I will return the favor.
Mr. Ramjattan, I'm not part of you and Charles' discussion there.
Okay, thank you very much for that disassociation.
I want to say this to all the political parties in Guyana. Foreign Affairs ministry is considered the ears and eyes of a government and the country and its people. And you do not put someone who do not have experience in foreign policy and diplomacy to become a diplomat. Charandass' behavior clearly tells you that he is not a diplomat. And he's far qualified to, but there are many others are in the same area. You cannot take political operators and make them diplomats. But governments do that, parties do that, the PNC did that, the PEP is doing that. And I don't know where that is going. You have to have qualified people to become diplomats. I teach foreign policy and diplomacy, international relations, international law. And it's a specific thing that you must know and you must do. But you can't send Charandass to be the diplomat to India. What do you expect?
Well, you know, it was, in my view,
when I speak, the people will say I'm anti-government. But put the qualified people to do the job and you'll get better results. That's all you have to do. There are qualified people on either side of the aisle. You just don't have to look for your party supporters. If they're qualified, you send them. But if they're not qualified, you get someone else who's qualified. And this is what I don't understand with the parties in Guyana. They choose people from their parties, put them in positions, and they're not qualified to do the job.
Well, you know, I don't like the idea because it was the first time I was in government. But I spoke to my Foreign Affairs Minister, Carl Greenidge, at the point in time, and I was well aware of the amount of training at Tacuba Lodge, especially that the APNU AFC were doing, and we tried as best as possible not to put what you call the politician types. It has to be the trained trained type, or even if it's a politician type, they must be of a certain character. They're going to cuss up a girl, a lady, an icon in the animal welfare section of the country, knowing people like Manika Gandhi, I think the wife of Sanjay Gandhi, and so on. You know, but this was a terrible thing. But it could very well be that this was the payback. You vote yes, 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 and we're going to send you someplace good and get good salary and all that. So if that was the deal worked out, what do you expect? You're going to get that kind of personality because they want them to bring down our government by this vote of no confidence, and then they make him High Commissioner. The thing is rotten. It's rotten to the core. But as I said, I don't want to get into much with the, chastising him. I got a Court of Appeal matter that I'll have to fight.
Nothing wrong with paybacks. Nothing wrong with that. But you put qualified people to do the job. Qualified people to do the job. You can't.
No, but only he could have done. Only he could have voted yes, yes, yes. So if it is a payback, because he did that, and which was great for them, they then say, well, we got to pay the man back. So nobody else they could have paid back.
As I said to you before, foreign policy and diplomacy is not a topic anybody can jump into.
I agree with you.
You have to have a trained mind, And you can ask anyone, any professors, anyone who teaches the course will tell you it is not an easy topic, it's not an easy subject. Your mind has to be trained to understand what diplomacy is all about and what foreign policy is all about. And not any Tom, Dick, and Harry can jump in and fit there. Maybe can jump in and fit in other areas, but not foreign policy and diplomacy. And this is where I have a problem with governments, all parties in Guyana, because they take anybody and put them there. Anyway, my question to you, let's move on. Cost of living in Guyana is very high at this stage, Mr. Ramjattan. And based on a recent report, 42% of our children in Guyana are going to school without lunch because the parents cannot afford to give to them. What are we doing to our kids? Are we starving them?
Well, that is the consequence of a high cost of living and no social welfare programs to ensure that they get a good meal, at least a lunch. We tried with the very minimal finances that we had with buses, biscuit, books, boots, and they used to cuss Granger for that. It was one of the greatest social programs we had for especially our young people. And so that they could have something to eat and at least the calories to take them through the 7 or 8 hours program. But what we have now, lots more monies, and now a situation where we are hearing that it is almost 30-35% people are not having lunches in our schools because of the inflation. It is disgusting to hear that, especially in the context of so much money that we have. Where the money is going, we don't know. We were told that we will know from the finance minister at the end of the budget that he has put $400 million for fishermen folk, or he put another $2 billion for the severance payments for 4,000 or 5,000 workers and all of that. He never told us. We are only knowing now that they're doing the cash transfers in accordance with obviously discriminatory procedures and approaches. And it is important then to understand that one of the things that could cut across and be so equitable is our school children. If you could give them the lunches, it will be to our benefit in the future generation to come. A hungry child does not assimilate. A hungry child does not concentrate. And with that 35% of them not having a belly full, it would mean that they're not going to concentrate. And that even those who with the belly full, their neighbors sitting in the desk and so on, because the parents doing better. The teacher is affected by these, and the ones that have some means, they're going to affect. They will be affected too as a result of so much other things going on in the class and so on. So it is to our benefit, and I am praying God that Ashni, in this next budget, I hear they're talking about it and so on, that they do something for school lunches, especially even if they have to start out in a pilot project in some depressed area. But, you know, this is what, again, will be discriminatory, because so many depressed areas might not be within their support base, and they might not want to, as a result, give it. But start the process somewhere, so at least a minimal, we can bring down that 35%. I would prefer them to give everybody, you know, the public school system.
Mr. Ramjattan, I was in Ghana for a few months last year and this year. I spent about 8 months in Ghana within the past year because I was teaching virtual. Now, I had to have someone to be with me all the times when I'm in Georgetown. Crimes have increased and continue to increase. Traffic deaths have skyrocketed. And I've been driving and I see people driving on the road. Now, I haven't seen any programs on television where there's some advertisement telling people to drive safely on the road and crimes and so forth. Now, during your time, what was the percentage of traffic accidents in the country and crimes rate in the country? Could you state?
Well, I'm certain that it is not as heavy as now, because the statistics that I'm getting, I tried to get some statistics here after you told me that you would want to raise the traffic thing. But I remember in the, we had about 29,000 prosecutions in the year 2017 and about 27,000 in 2018. It is very high, and I think it is probably higher now. What made that possible, especially in 2019, was the video cameras that we put up in what was called the Smart City project. We saw so many drivers jumping red lights and all of that, and it's only when they go to court, they plead not guilty, they never jump the red light, and then we take out the video recording, just like how you do it in America, and show, then all of them started pleading guilty. But let me say that when I was a minister there, we got the United Nations report as to what it is that can be remedial strategies for getting this traffic in control. And the UN's global plan for the 2010-2020 period was what we adopted. It was to enhance road safety management, promote safer roads and mobility, ensure safer vehicles, safer use of the roadways by all categories of road users by training, and the establishment of an effective post-crash response team. Now, some of that needed political will, some of that needed funding, some of that needed collaboration. So I had to collaborate too with like David Patterson. Our roads design got to be better, and our roads got to be broader. Make sure that when you're making roads, they're broader, and so on. But although better roads infrastructure was a big thing in our term, you had to also find money to paint signs and the roads and get your traffic lights working. In Ghana, 90% of the traffic lights don't work. No, and checks on the cars and the numbers, especially the tires, and whether these cars are worthy for the road. We had come up with a plan that says a car that I think was 12 years and older must not enter the Guyana. The PPP has seen it fit to do away with that prohibition. And you get in cars that are 15 years old and all kind of thing. The engines, you don't know, the steerings and so on. The speedometer for those cars, some of them old-time cars there, the older ones, are not working. And so people feel they're driving at 50 miles per hour when they're doing lots more. And all of these are, you know, we collaborated with the Ministry of Public Infrastructure for lighting up and so on, all over the place. We had started that. The Guyana National Road Safety Council is that unit that helped us because it had a set of people there that loved with a passion this job of, you know, how we're going to do programs and flyers, and they do white nights and so on in certain very congested areas and tell people to do this thing. But I'm not seeing that now happening. I'm not seeing, of course, after the COVID, the thing died out because COVID, people didn't want to be clustering and so on. But COVID is away now, is off the radar, as it were. And of course, we have to get back to these things. But we are not getting back to these things. And that is the same thing with the crime. The crime situation is so bad. We had a huge set of expert advice coming from the British security sector reform. A reform process that the British had wanted to give the PPP government since 2008, and they didn't accept it. We accepted it as soon as we went into government. And a whole host of things were done. The strategic management unit of the police force was set up. Procurement sections were set up with further expertise giving guidance how to procure arms and ammunition and buttons and all kinds of things. And I have it all in a quinquennial report that I had to do for 2015-2020. And they made lots of achievements we had. The maritime capability, remodeling of police stations, and we managed 12 with monies from the IDB plus local funding. Lagrange, Maibikuri, Port Kaituma, Mabaruma, Sodi, Kokwani, Isano, Ishalton, Arai, Aurora, and Mackenzie Police Station. And then these were almost from brand new. And then we rehabilitated a number. We had to activate this 911 emergency response. And we tried to get policemen all the time at the police station who are going to act whenever the telephone call come in. Nowadays, you call and you call and you call, nothing happening. Because, of course, we had $2.6 million worth of vehicles from the Chinese government. The People's Republic made a substantial donation. It is 56 pickup trucks, 35 all-terrain vehicles, 44 motorbikes, and over 100 sets of body armor and so on. And 5 coaches, the big buses, for the police. So we had vehicles at the station like Brickdam and so on. Because Brickdam at one time used to say we ain't got no vehicle. But in 2016, we managed to ask and we got them. And so these are the things that I think Mr. Ben should be doing. But in addition to all of that, Euclid, I want to tell you something. Our standing orders of the Parliament provides for a parliamentary oversight committee on the security sector. At page 49, it then states what are its functions. It is to examine the policies and administration of all the entities in the security sector. The security sector is made up big time also of the police force. When I was minister, immediately that body was set up, and opposition members included Ben, Priya Manikchan, a fellow named Gil. I think Anil Nandalal was also there, and so on. And they demanded that Silal Prasad come. They demanded that the fire chief come and Courtney Samuels to come, the prison chief. And they scrutinized them as to what plans and programs they have for each year. You know, since the PPP got into government, Robeson Benin set up this thing here. And we begging him every blasted time, please, we would like as a parliamentary committee to scrutinize what the police force is doing. He has made that committee dysfunctional. Never set it up. And, you know, we are not meeting, you know, we have named ourselves who will be in there. I think Geeta Chandan and so on. We name ourselves, but it has not met. So we now don't have an opportunity as parliamentarians to call up Mr. Hicken, say, or Mr. Blenheim. What is happening there? Why this has not happened? Where is the monies that we give and pass in the last budget? Has it bought the equipment and so on? Nothing. That is why I'm saying that our governance was superior. What I did was when Harry Gill said that he understands that interior police stations are in dilapidated conditions. Now, I knew that that is true. But he said that he wanted to go and the committee must go. And we hire a plane. And we went and we stopped about 3 or 4 of the destinations in the interior. And all of that helped the rehabilitation exercise because we send the photographs and so on to the IDB that they got to hustle up to rehabilitate this police station. Same thing, they call up the fire chief and the prison what is the new arrangements? There's lots of violence in the prison and so on. And the man gave them all the statistics. We used to give them all the statistics on the traffic offenses committed, how many were convicted, and so on. We gave the opposition that. Anytime they wanted it, we gave them. We used to give the press. Now, nothing is being given. So I want, you know, that even if Mr. Ben is watching or the president is watching, tell Mr. Ben to get working that Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Public Security. It might help because we could pressure the police fool.
Since 1979, blackouts started in Guyana. And every political party that campaigned for election said, we're going to end blackouts. Today, blackouts are more prevalent than anything else. Where I'm from, up the quarantine, people are going without power for 2-3 days. And when power shuts off, water shut off too. And there's no end in sight in this one. Plus, water shortage. Guyana, they say, is the land of many waters. But yet, potable water is not available 24/7. What has to be done? Joey Jagan put it right. Last week, when we talk about development or developing a country, and we can provide basic needs, human needs, water, electricity, then we should not talk about development. Do you agree with Joey's statement?
Yeah, well, Joey is spot on. Development is going to be incremental, and especially based on the fundings that you have. And that is why I always will remark that $1.7 billion, 2 years, we got to spend it on these needs: water, electricity, better roads, and so on. And you have to, when you get money too, I have now come to realize that money is not the only solution to this thing. You have to have aggressive leadership that pushes these things. I remember with the little money we had, the blackouts under the coalition government was far less than what we have now with all the monies that the PPP got. Because they're knocking off all the people that they feel were APNU AFC people inside of that GPL and so on. They have discriminating. And when you start knocking off people and you're knocking off people who know the system and so on, you're not going to get it right. And that is the reason why. The reason that will bring back David Patterson. And when David does his very good speeches in Parliament, let me tell you something, they boo the man and they talk all kind of wickedness and nastiness about the man. But he had it very right. A lot of people, the Christmases we spent under the coalition, right now, you're going to see the deficits what the PPP going to produce. I don't think they have a police plan for this Christmas. I don't think they have a GPL plan for this Christmas. And that is why if you're up Barbies, all of this thing is happening. Barbies, my mom always tell me, she even watching this program and on Facebook or whatever, and then a blackout come and that kind of thing. And it is disgusting. And I know that Barbicians who are big support base for the PPP are saying that we're done with them. Of course, as I have indicated, they will still go back with them. But a lot of them are getting so disaffected, so disenchanted. But it calls for aggressive leadership in the sector, both water and also. We know that Mr. what's his name, Sheikh Bax was there for a long time. He knows the system and so on. But I don't know if Sheikh is the best person. You want to tell me that the PPP ain't got nobody with a lot more energy that could do this kind of work? Now you've gone back to Sheikh Bax. It's the same thing. They're talking about sugar. And you know, all of them senior managers from Gaisuko, they put back on the board. Every one of those people there, literally, were senior managers or CEOs for Gaisuko. They gone and put them. If they couldn't get it right under when they were managing, you think they're going to get it right as board members now? And that is the problem. You put people there who might not want to do anything radical, who will not want to be not necessarily adventurous in the negative sense, but getting things done like we did.
I was informed, like most people in the papers, that your good friend, Dr. Ramaya, quit his government job in the office of Barbies. What do you think he'll be doing?
No, Ramaya, I knew that Ramaya was going to quit. Ramaya knows, and I had spoken to him. You know, he got vexed with me and so on. But Ramaya is my brother, and I will remain his brother too. But Ramaya can't see corruption and don't talk about it. And I think I heard a clip from Ramaya. He got to go now because the corruption is like madness. He's seeing it firsthand in Barbies. And Ramaya know a thing or two about that region because Ramaya goes out and sing his bhajans and songs and so on and play harmonia. He's there all over the place. Ramaya is right to get out from that place. That is what they just want to give Ramaya a little tokenism. Take a job thereby, advisor to president or whatever, or the regional advisor. And when he gives the reports that this is what is happening, I hear to tear up the report. How could you then be an advisor? And the corruption is so rampant. Contracts going to a very small clique. And then it's substandard work, as he said. We have been saying that ourselves. They don't get proper management and scrutiny of the work done. People are being paid off and all kind of thing. And it is very rampant. I am not going to say that we didn't have certain mistakes done too in our thing. But as soon as it was done, some committee of cabinet would investigate and certainly tear into, like we did with the CARES report, that school in Cato and so on. One set of nonsense was passing. You walk in and the floor, you're passing through the floor. And that is what they wanted to pass.
It is said that Dr. Ramaya is one of the best grassroots campaigner in the country, especially for Region 5, Region 6, and wherever we put him. Is that true?
Ramaya is an extremely good campaigner. Ramaya is a very good organizer. He's a grassroots man, very much grassroots man. I am hoping that Ramaya will see with us and come back because he was always an AFC.
Charles, over to you.
Mr. Ramjattan, I'm sorry if I sound too passionate this evening, because what I'm trying to put forward is that for 50 odd years, you know, our country is independent and still we have 30–40% of our people still live in poverty. It's not right.
No, I agree.
Guyana is really a rich country. Guyana is not a poor country. I'm so sad when people say Guyana is a poor country. We are not. And yet our people living in poverty. Anyway, we have a short time left, Mr. Ramjattan. There was a recent poll done, third parties, and the people in Ghana, you said, still like you come up with the #1 person who people like more. There are others that follow you, but you're #1. What is the...
#1 in where?
Well, the poll of third party leaders.
Oh, third party leaders.
Yeah, you come up...
I want to know if I pass people like Jagdeo and so on, man.
Not yet. But what is the plan for the AFC in the future? As you mentioned, Dr. Rose, you're not sure yet if you will contest the local government election. And at the end of this year, I understand that you're meeting to decide if you're going to stay with the coalition or not. What is the future of the AFC?
I see the future of the AFC pretty bright because of the fact that we make our decisions in a very democratic fashion. And there are lots of people out there who want a party that they could come in with after seeing or getting vexed with the PNC or APNU or some other party and or the PPP. So they will see in our party that we got competent leaders, we got some bright people, we got aggressive people, we got people who will speak out and not be bought. And so they will want to come, and it is needed in a multi-ethnic society. There is a set of right-thinking people out there who see the need for a third party that is multi-ethnic. And for that reason, although it will not probably pass 10% of the votes, it will be very close with the two parties that are the larger, APNU and PPP, and so that we can make, like in 2011, bring down a government to minority. And we could do a number of things as we did during 2011 to 2014.
We have seen, we have seen a lot of parties, and we can only ask a little time. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. I really should not do that. But we have seen a lot of small parties in the last election. Have you reached out to them to have an independent third party, or are you thinking going back to the coalition to be part of the coalition?
No. We certainly will be having talks with the smaller parties. As a matter of fact, that was the instruction our national conference gave, that we must collaborate with smaller parties. We will be doing that. That was at our national conference. Was it in June? And we are going to start the process. I don't think we have started the process yet of talking to them. And we even got that mandate last national executive meeting, whereby we must speak to them. I know for a fact that people within these other small parties, there are very many of them, Liberty and Justice and this ANOG and so on, there are lots of people who have spoken to me who are members of those parties. And indeed, we intend to have collaboration with them as political parties and as individuals. And so that process will start soon. I may have been at fault in not starting it earlier. I will take the blame for that because I know people like Kathy and all my other NEC members have been asking me when. And I'm
so that's give us indication that you might be leaving the coalition then.
Well, again, we have indicated at a national conference that we are exiting on the 31st of December. So we will abide and adhere to that. But we're going to have good relations because we are a parliamentary party. Remember, it was the APNU plus AFC that won the seats and the councillorship for us. But if we have to go to our local government elections, it might be otherwise.
Yeah, okay. So if you meet with the other small parties, ANOG and Liberty and Justice and so on, and the other parties, and I think Glenlal might be also forming a party, I'm not sure. But if you talk to everyone within that party, and some do not want to be a part of this broader third party coalition, would you support that joiner list in the election so that even though the other parties campaign separately, their votes will be counted towards parliamentary seats?
Look, personally, I will support something like that, the joinder of the list. But again, that's a major decision. We'll have to carry that to our national executive and probably our national conference, because a lot of our members also would like us to be separate from all the other parties. And it will be a decision to be made at that point in time. But I see some benefits in a joinder with other political parties, and thereby, because the people will still have to vote separately. If you're voting for Liberty or if you're voting for Anuk or whatever. So you will know at that time. But at this stage, it's a very difficult call for me to make as to what my party will decide.
All right. I know, again, Mr. Ramjattan, you're an opposition party, but I think we should, in my recommendation, I'm not saying you must do this or the party must do that, but I think we need to give credit to the government when they do something good. I think the president is trying his best to reach across Guyana, reaching out. There are issues that they need to address, but I think the credit should be given to the government when it's due. And of course, we need to also raise the issue when there are different challenges that the government need to put in place. So that's my recommendation to you.
No, I agree with you, Charles. I agree with you. The rancor is too much.
Yeah.
The negative politics is too much. I would like to support the government on that $900 million for forestry. And it is going through a bank, so people will know basically that you got to get good credentials before you get a loan to capitalize again under the forestry sector. We should get, as we have been asking, for all the monies that were given to the various people for fertilizers and so on, the names and so, like how you do it in America. When y'all get a $2,000 relief, everybody knows who and who got the relief. You go into a computer thing, you're going to know Charles get it, Euclid Rose get it. And so you can make the call as to whether it was discriminatory. We can't get information.
Mr. Ramjattan, because the system in the United States is different, I keep calling on the leaders in Guyana to ensure that everyone file their tax return. When you do that, you know those who need help.
Yes,
so
I agree.
It's easier to give the money to those that need help.
That's right.
A farmer lose $10 million. Well, show me a tax return where you filed the previous year. He has no tax return, but still we give him $10 million. And that's where the corruption, is embedded. And if we can just put in place, every person, every company must file a corporation tax, or there are penalties for not filing your taxes. And I think that will go a long way for the government to put things in place. But I think government like it the way it is because there's room for great corruption. But that's my view only.
No. I am in total agreement with you there, Charles. And that might very well be a best note to end it. Because we probably might have gone off, criticizing each other. But that is so true. And I would like at this stage to say that the politicization of every issue must come to an end. A lot of people tell me this too, that I have a scorched earth policy. Everything that Jagdeo does, I criticize. Well, there is an element of criticism in everything he does, quite frankly. Irfan, I will give the benefit of the doubt too, because he has a little more heart in him. But Jagdeo, completely heartless. And he will do all the things just for get the PPP an advantage over and above principles and all that. And so that is why sometimes you see me attacking, especially him and some of his cronies. But there are very many times with bills come to Parliament that we support, but it is never ever given any publicity. They got about 8 or 9 bills since the last sitting. We supported. And when I asked the Chronicle people, but why are you not saying that the PPP supported it? Well, they said that is not news. They get the news only when we criticize them, and then they cuss Ramjattan. Ramjattan criticized me again. That is probably why you feel the way you do. But I have gone publicly in Parliament to support so many of the things that the PPP did.
Mr. Ramjattan, thank you so much. Anything in closing? We got to close now. Up time is really up.
No, I will just plead with you. Please call me up as early as possible again. I like to deal with these issues. And you are, of course, this duo deal with issues. And then, of course, we get aggressive. That is how it should be in a democracy. You don't have safe kind of interviews. You must be like the hard talk man from BBC. Thank you very much.
All right. Dr. Rose, anything in closing?
Yes. Globespan, the pulse of the people, the voice of reason. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling on all our politicians in Guyana to stop being vindictive. You cannot promote one race over the other and expect the country to develop. Stop being vindictive. Treat people as equal As someone said, our destiny is intertwined. We are one nation, one people, with one destiny. And at the same time, I'm calling on all Guyanese to support President Ali's One Guyana initiative. It's something good. It can unify the country and move the country forward. And also its 1,000 men program. It is also something good. It is designed to end violence and or against domestic violence, reduce crimes, and so forth. President Ali is trying to bring some reasoning to Guyanese, and we must support those things. Now, I'm not going to ask you to support all his policies, but those two policies or those two programs are two fantastic programs. We need unity, we need harmony, and I think the One Guyana initiative, if properly executed, can bring forth that unity, that harmony for the country.
Thank you very much.
Also, I'm calling again for all teachers, nurses, policemen to have an increase in salary. Cost of living is high. A starting of at least $150,000 a month, and for all public servants. That is reasonable. And I know the country can afford it because my accountant, Charles Sugrim, told me so.
I'm saying 200,000, 1,000 US is reasonable. Anyway, and some people on our program accuse me of being talking against African Guyanese, but that is, I don't know if I'm doing that. If I do that, I apologize. But what we hear recently from Mr. Burke here in New York, and what Jeffries is doing, and what the Attorney General is saying about Guyana, I think that is really, really something that we need to challenge, that they're thinking of the government being racist and so on. I don't see that in Guyana. Maybe someone is seeing it differently, but I believe that, as Dr. Rose has mentioned, we need to support the country, whether we vote for the PEP or not. We need to support the government because the president wants one Guyana. Now, some things might be doing wrong. We can tell the president, maybe recommend what should be done differently. But what Mr. Burke is doing here, and Mr. Jeffries and the Attorney General Letitia James is talking about, it is not good for Guyana. So, but anyway, next Tuesday is elections here in the US. So go out and vote. Vote for your party of your choice. I know who I'll vote for, but you vote for your party of your choice. And whoever wins, let us support. We want to also congratulate Mr. Lula from Brazil. He won the election there. And we hope that he will do a great job as he did in his previous term as president. Mr. Ramjattan, thank you again for being on the program. There's a lot of questions we still have that we couldn't answer, that we couldn't ask because time against us, but we hope you'll come back sometime so we can continue discussion.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you so much.
Could you stay back for a minute?
And to all our viewers out there, we want to thank you. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Devin. God bless our great country and God bless Guyana. Thank you very much.
You're listening to the